Tonight, cases decrease across Victoria. Infections and deaths get lower throughout the week, but the pandemic is far from over as 2 TV shows shut down due to a COVID-19 cluster. Plus, Sydney residents on high alert and schools shut down after a coronavirus outbreak in the CBD. Also tonight, the Australian terrorist who gunned down 51 people at 2 mosques in Christchurch last year, sentenced to life in prison without parole. Riots break out across Wisconsin after the shooting of an African-American man by police as NBA players boycott games in support of the BLM movement. And rumours swirl about the health of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. But how are those living in nearby countries dealing with the threat of nuclear war? 6 News starts now. Good evening. Premier Daniel Andrews has abandoned his plan to extend state of emergency powers by 12 months amid growing concern from opposition leaders and even the federal government. It comes as long-awaited data released by the state government shows that more than 70% of healthcare workers that have tested positive for COVID-19 during the second wave did catch it from work. Authorities have said that they will continue to provide more PPE, especially in aged care facilities where the majority of these healthcare workers have tested positive. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has said that the current virus numbers were still not anywhere near as low as he'd like them to be, but has also said that the infection numbers have turned a corner. Victoria Police have issued a warning to those against lockdown measures after a tense standoff in Dandenong that has led to 4 people being charged after hundreds of protesters stormed the streets against the lockdown measures. A primetime TV show has had its production shut down following a COVID-19 cluster at their Melbourne studio. Channel 10's The Masked Singer was only hours away from filming their finale, but now that's been put onto hiatus after more than 15 dancers tested positive for the virus. Filming of Channel 9's program Millionaire Hot Seat has also been suspended as it shares the same studio as The Masked Singer. More than 200 people have now entered self-isolation as a result of the outbreak. Residents in some Sydney suburbs are on high alert tonight following a series of clusters that have left health officials worried. One cluster in the CBD has grown as the state's chief health officer urges anyone in the area to watch for coronavirus symptoms. At least 3 schools have already shut down as precautionary measures, with students now undergoing COVID-19 tests. And commuters on a Sydney train may have caught the virus after a passenger rode the train whilst infectious. The Australian terrorist who gunned down 51 people at 2 Christchurch mosques last year has been sentenced to life in prison without parole. The gunman pleaded guilty to all charges after several days in court, where countless victims told their harrowing stories in an unprecedented trial, both by the fact many had to self-isolate before the actual trial, as well as the fact it's the first time a life sentence has been handed down in New Zealand without the possibility of parole. After the verdict, dozens of people celebrated outside court following months of anguish. A clip from the terrorist live stream that showed the massacre was uploaded to the website Reddit during the week before being removed by moderators. Anyone found to be distributing the video could face either up to 14 years in prison or a $10,000 fine. Riots have broken out across Wisconsin following the police shooting of an African-American man. 27-year-old Jacob Blank was shot 7 times in the back by an officer, with the shooting captured on camera by onlookers. It sparked several nights of violence that has led to a teenager being charged over the shooting deaths of 2 apparent BLM protesters. US President Donald Trump says he is sending in law enforcement following nights of unrest. Many NBA players have also spoken out, with some games initially boycotted by teams. Kim Jong-un is close to death. Those are the reports emerging this week, but with everything in North Korea already a closely guarded secret, the lack of information only adds to the mysterious madness of the nuclear state. Our chief reporter Jack Hahn examines what life is like for those living in Asia where the nuclear threat is ever present and where the status of Kim Jong-un could mean life or death.
Everything in North Korea is a closely guarded secret, including the condition of their supreme leader, Kim Jong-un. State television like this often the only glimpse we have of the North Korean leader. However, in April, astronomical allegations were made from US security intel insiders.
The US is now monitoring intelligence that the health of the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is in grave danger.
But just a month later, the leader reappeared, reassuring the world that the regime would remain stable. However, that mysterious month of mayhem placed new pressure on the pariah state. Questions of who exactly would take over if Kim Jong-un did pass away. With the top-down power structure, those questions were unclear. Then the world was introduced to Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong. She would be the next likely leader in the dynasty. Recently, she's had an increased role in the regime, dealing with South Korean relations. Her diplomacy blowing up the symbolic embassy of the South, calling it useless. With the likelihood of Yo-jong becoming the next leader and her unique diplomacy, it's placed new value on Kim Jong-un's health, as it could be a matter of life or death for the rest of the world. And this J alert, a real nuclear warning system and a real reality for countries where the North's nukes could hit close to home, is a dire warning for the consequences we may face with a potential power struggle on the horizon and a mysterious sister with an even more mysterious mind.
Right, and Chief Reporter Jack Hunt joins us now live. Jack, we saw this week some more reports that Kim Jong-un could be in dire strait again, but do we know what his current condition actually is?
We do, Leo, and that is he is A-OK. That is what state television out of North Korea is telling the world, releasing photos of their leader appearing to be in fine, fit condition. But keep in mind, Leo, if South Korea or the United States even knew that Kim Jong-un was in dire health, it's unlikely that they will confirm this on the record because they do not want to alienate the regime in Pyongyang. If Kim Jong-un is in fact in dire conditions or potentially dead, they will be the ones announcing it. And, you know, it's really important to preface this entire report with that J alert, the emergency alert I played for you in the report, because that really underscores the importance of keeping a good relationship with North Korea, because if we don't, it could ultimately end with hundreds of thousands of people dead with nuclear weapons, Leo.
Right, Jack, wonderful reporting as always tonight. Thank you. TikTok CEO Kevin Mayer has resigned only 4 months into the job. This follows the app announcing that they will sue the Trump administration over the president's threat to ban it due to fears of users' data being stolen. US retail chain Walmart has now joined Microsoft in a bid for the company's US assets. It's expected that TikTok's current parent company will reach a deal by September 15. Do you support the potential ban? You can have your say on this issue on our Facebook, Twitter and Instagram pages at 6 News AU. Alright, we're going to take a quick break now. Coming up next on 6 News, the aged care minister walks out of Senate questioning, plus 3 killed after wild storms devastate Victoria. Also, Microsoft announces that they are getting rid of Internet Explorer after 25 years, but what browser do you use? And KFC set to dump their iconic slogan. Stay with us.
2020 has been one of the biggest years in our lifetime. Calls for police reform across the country, a global pandemic that has changed the way we live, and the upcoming election that will shape America. As the U.S. gets ready to decide who will lead the country for the next 4 years, we'll keep you informed with all the latest developments in the race for the presidency. Special coverage and expert analysis only on 6 News.
That story went round on late Saturday afternoon. It was broken on that website, 6 News. He's only 12 years old, but already Leonardo Puglisi fronts his own news channel.
That is incredible.
Absolutely inspiring.
Leo's fantastic. He's doing an amazing job. He's everywhere. He's breaking stories.
That's pretty impressive, Leo. Leave it there for now. We do. I might see him doing a bit more stuff on Canberra before too long.
Very good at what you do, young man.
What an amazing guy.
This is your studio here. It's a pretty sweet setup you've got.
We're following your story. We're rooting for you.
He will be the next Karl Stefanovic. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, lovely to see you. And go hard.
Welcome back, you're watching 6 News. The Minister for Aged Care, Richard Colbeck, has been slammed after walking out of the Senate following questioning about COVID-19 deaths in nursing home. He has also repeatedly denied recently to appear on programs including the ABC's 7:30. Take a look.
As of yesterday, there were 353 Australians in residential aged care who had died from COVID-19, and today more than 360. And it is a disgrace that this minister leaves the chamber when the parliament is taking note of his statement. Or I hope all Australians can see how he just turned his back on his accountability and responsibility in this parliament and did not have the honour and principle to stay and listen.
Now, this all comes after the minister apologised for not knowing how many residents actually died from the virus in government-managed aged care facilities. 3 people have died, including a 4-year-old boy, after wildstorms devastated Victoria. It came only days after flood warnings were issued for the Yarra River, with some floods even seen in low-lying areas near bridges and bike paths. The cold snap was seen right across the east coast. In Canberra, there was even snow. We'll have tomorrow's forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Microsoft have announced that they are dumping Internet Explorer after 25 years, but what browser do you use? Our Twitter poll shows that 68% of you currently use Google Chrome, 15% use Safari, just 1% use Internet Explorer, and 16% use something else. You can have your say on this at our social pages using hashtag 6NewsAU. The 2021 NEAFL season has already been cancelled and will now be merged with the VFL next year. But as Daniel Pizarro explains, some clubs didn't even know about the news beforehand.
Set it upfield towards Highmore.
The announcement the North East AFL competition, or NEAFL, would merge with the VFL has left the Canberra Demons blindsided. The NEAFL 2020 season didn't go ahead due to the pandemic, sparking speculation of the second tier's future with the AFL. The AFL said in a statement that clubs currently involved in NEAFL could field a standalone team, align with an existing second tier club, or spread their AFL-listed players across multiple second tier clubs. The biggest concern involves the future of the 5 standalone teams that aren't tied with the AFL clubs that field sides. Of major concern is the Canberra Demons, who according to the Canberra Times weren't notified of the merger prior to the public announcement, and the AFL statement didn't mention them.
I think the issue with the announcement today at a local level is that there's more questions than answers, and that's never good when you're trying to attract players to the Canberra region. A big draw card for bringing players to the region to play footy and AFL Canberra football is, there's a pathway to Canberra Demons, NEAFL. There's a pathway potentially to AFL. It's a second tier competition, and not knowing whether the Canberra Demons are participating next year in that competition will definitely have an impact locally.
The Demons face either competing with tougher VFL teams or being forced to merge with another second-tier side.
I think the Canberra Demons have been developing and growing as a second-tier football club for quite a few years now, to a point where they're competing with the likes of Sydney Swans reserves, GWS Giants reserves, in the past NT Thunder, those sort of teams who, I reckon if you went 5 years ago, they weren't competing. And it's one of those things, I reckon, if you build it and they will come.
If the Demons did fold, players wanting a national career in footy would have to leave the capital. That could create a knockdown effect on the territory's competitions and damage the chances of Canberra ever hosting an AFL club in its own right.
Like if you go back before NEAFL, I wouldn't be surprised if the same amount of kids from Canberra were getting drafted before any teams were playing in the NEAFL from Canberra. Also, if you go back pre-NEAFL, the competition was at its strongest. We had marquee players coming from AFL into the competition. We had good crowds. The competition was thriving in Canberra. So I think you could build an argument for either way. Like maybe it's a good thing for footy, but I think you could build an argument to suggest, hey, it may very well make local competition stronger, and maybe we could bring back the glory days.
The AFL says 2021 will be a year of transition that also includes a revamp of the NAB Cup from an under-16 and 18s competition for younger players to an under-17s and 19s, with the draft age still remaining at 18. In Canberra, Daniel Pizarro, 6 News.
Alright, let's now check in with tomorrow's forecast right around the nation. Brisbane getting to a sunny top of 27, Sydney 17, Canberra 14, Melbourne 12, Adelaide 13, Perth heavy rain 20 degrees, Darwin a cloudy top of 33, Townsville 26, Wollongong 17, Ballarat 9, Bendigo 13, and in Hobart a chilly top of 9 degrees. Finally tonight, KFC have dumped their iconic slogan amid the coronavirus pandemic. The company said it was a unique situation and added their iconic slogan did not fit in with the current environment. This came after several complaints in March regarding ads that indeed did feature people licking their fingers, with one labelling that irresponsible. KFC says the slogan will return when the time is right. That is 6 News for this Sunday evening. You can stay up to date with all the latest news on our social pages at 6NewsAU. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Good night.